Hello again, and thank you for joining us on TVC this hour. We begin in Abuja, where the Federal High Court has granted a former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, bail in the sum of 500 million naira. Is also to provide two sureties in like sum. Justice Emeka Nwite had granted Mr. Bello bail after he had pleaded not guilty to the 19-count charge of alleged money laundering to the tune of 80 billion naira brought against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Celestina Area reports.
At today's proceedings, counsel to the EFCC Kemi Pinero, senior advocate of Nigeria, had moved an application for Mr. Bello to take his plea. Mr. Bello pleaded not guilty to the charges. Shortly after, Joseph Daudu, counsel to Yahaya Bello, apologized to the court for any impression that may have been created by Mr. Bello that he did not want to appear in court. He says Mr. Bello was challenging the jurisdiction of the court and it was not a willful disrespect to the court. While moving an application for bail, he assured that the former governor would always be present in court for the trial. I'm saying this with the highest sense of responsibility that the defendant, a two-term governor of Kogi State who traveled only twice out of his 8 years in service, will always be present in court at all times. Prosecuting counsel Kemi Pinero-san acknowledged that Rule 26 of the Rules of Professional Conduct that counsel to the defendant, who has given the assurances that the defendant will be available for his trial, subject to the discretionary terms imposed by the court. Mr. Pinero noted that though he had filed a counter affidavit, he would not oppose the bail, going by the assurances of Mr. Bello's lawyer. Following on the bail application, Justice Nwite granted him bail in the sum of 500 million naira with two sureties. The sureties must be landed property owners within the jurisdiction of the court. They must swear to an affidavit of means. The title deeds of the property must be verified by the court registrar. Mr. Bello was also asked to submit his international passport while he would remain in Kuje Correctional Center pending the perfection of the bail conditions. Celestina Area, TVC News, Abuja.
Meanwhile, the Court of Appeal still in Abuja has set aside all orders restraining the Central Bank of Nigeria as well as the Accountant General of the Federation from releasing funds to the Rivers State government. A three-justice panel headed by Herman Baker held that the subject matter was not within the jurisdiction of the court relating to the revenues of the state. While allowing the appeal of the Rivers State government, the appellate court also set aside all orders made by Justice Joyce Abdul Malik, saying it was unconstitutional for her to make orders restricting the Rivers State government to receive funds due to the state from its Consolidated Revenue Fund. The appellate court also held that the lower court overreached itself and doesn't have the jurisdiction to entertain the matter. In its reaction, the opposition lawmakers have described this judgment as victory for democracy. Spokesperson of the group, Ikenga Ogochinyere, reacting to the development, said the appeal court had averted anarchy and constitutional disorder in the state.
It's victory for democracy and principles of federalism and constitutional governance. And the opposition lawmakers, commenced the appeal court for redeeming the image of the judiciary. How can you think, how can you imagine seizing a statutory revenue of a federating unit using the court like an invitation to constitutional and judicial anarchy? Jurisdiction was not there in the first place, like appeal court have upheld. Jurisdiction is integral. This was purely an internal affairs of a state because we are talking about Appropriation Act. That is law made by the State Assembly. There was nothing that involves CBN interpretation or federal government involvement in it. It's victory for...
In other reports now, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, has warned adversaries, including bandits and criminals, to prepare for a more formidable and robust Nigerian army. The Chief of Army Staff was speaking during his maiden operational visit to Kaduna. Lupa Assam reports.
Making his first operational tour as the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede visited the headquarters of the 1 Division Nigerian Army in Kaduna. He was briefed on the division's operational activities and challenges. In an interactive session with troops, the Army Chief emphasized his dedication to a leadership style rooted in empathy and a genuine concern for their welfare.
You will do your work well? Yes, sir. And I will do mine well? Yes, sir. Okay. I signed my command philosophy, and the major sections of that command philosophy rest on leadership, sound administration, professionalism. And in that same command philosophy, I made it clear that I'm going to place the soldiers first in every area. And from my address to them this afternoon, you heard me when I said I'm going to place their welfare, as a top priority. Because if they are not at their best, they can't give us the best.
The Army Chief outlined his vision to redefine military strategy, warning enemies of the state to brace for a more agile and unrelenting Nigerian Army.
Well, my message to the soldiers in the front line is for them to be encouraged. We're going to evolve new strategies to make things better in the field, get to approach our operations from a different perspective, and I hope we'll get better results. They should be ready, to face a more formidable army, a more serious army, and for them to know that it's better they just pack their things and leave Nigeria for us.
In a show of commitment to improving the living standards of personnel, Lieutenant General Oluyede commissioned key infrastructure projects. These include the 1 Division Officers' Mess Annex at Dalet Barrack and the newly remodeled Corporals Bello quarters at Kotoko Barracks, featuring 30 modern housing units each. The Chief called on officers to uphold the Army's core values of professionalism and discipline, urging them to fully embrace their responsibilities in the collective mission to safeguard the nation. Lupe Asom, TVC News, Kaduna.